So today's daf is Sotah Mem Dalet, Sotah 44, and we're going to start the very last words on 43b. Gemara is continuing to cite statements that were made in the name of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. We say on top of 44a, Meis Tofes Arba Amos Otuma, that a dead body, if you come within 4 amos, an amma is the arm's length from. So we're going to say, if you come within approximately 18 inches of a dead body, the rabbis made a rabbinic decree that you're tamei, and the reason is because maybe you would somehow come over, be mahil, make a covering over the dead body, and therefore you become tamei. V'tana tuna, and in olos, we're going to the Mishnah. Chatzer HaKaver, that the way they used to make their graves were in caves, burial crypts, which was one that I saw in Saudi Arabia. When I went to Har Sinai, we saw Yisro's caves, Yisro's burial crypts. That's what they have there archaeologically. And so we went, there's a cave, and in this cave is where the body's buried. But outside the cave, there's like a courtyard where you go into the cave first. So Chatzer HaKever, the area outside of the grave, Omed Besocha Tower, that was somebody who stands in this area outside the grave, which is connected to, adjacent to, but not part of, you're going to be tahor, because we're not concerned that you're going to be mahil, you're going to cover over the tent. Arba amos. What makes this a Chatzer HaKaver? It's its own distinct area, and it needs to be 4 amos, i.e. 6 feet. That's the position of Beis Shammai, whereas Beis Hillel Omrim Arba Tfachim. You only need 4 Tfachim for it to be a distinct area, 4 handbreadths, approximately a foot is all you need. Bamed Bar Mamurim, and the Gemara says, when does Beis Hillel say this? Shepislo Amawa. When does Beis Hillel say this? When the entrance to the courtyard is above. That's where we say that. But if the Pischa min Atzad, but if the entrance is from the side, then Divrei Akol, and even Beis Hillel would say Arba Amos, that you need it to be 4 Amos, because it's not enough of a marker, of a distinct marker, if it's just to the side, to say you can get away with it for Tefachim, that you're in a separate place. So the Gemara says, Klap Alai, this is facing in the wrong direction. Adarabah should be the opposite. Minat Sad, Midrid Vinafik, if you're in the side, then you're going to be going down out away from the cave by sloping down and leaving the cave. So milmala, but if you're coming from above, then you're more likely to be ma'il. You're more likely to cover the dead body, because if you're coming from above, when you leave, you're for sure going to be more likely to cover over the dead body. So therefore, it should be just the opposite. So therefore, what did Beis Hillel say? When does he say you only need 4 tefachim? If you're from the side, because then the entrance is from the side, because then you're going in a different direction. But if your entrance is from above, Arba Amos, then you need a more distinct separate area. And when do we say that if you have that if you're within 4 amos, you're not going to become tamei? If you're outside the area, if you're in what's called the Chatzer HaKever, there's a clear, distinct separate area of a meis ba'alma. But if just a general dead body, toughest, when you're within 4 amos, you're going to become tamei. It's the mace is tofes arba amos. The dead body grabs the 4 amos around it. It's a very powerful idea. And even though the dead body is dead, it grabs the area around it. It grabs that area. Says the Talmud, continuing. It said in the Mishnah. Hold on 1 second. Okay, I'd like to wish everybody a good day. So now we go on. So Mia Isha Sher Eras Isha, who is the one who betrothed a woman? Tan Rabbanan Asher Eras, who betrothed. It says if you say anybody who's betrothed a woman, he goes back from battle. So it says, who's the one who betrothed a woman? Whether somebody's betrothed a virgin, whether somebody's betrothed a widow, or even somebody who's been shomeres yavam, who betrothed this woman who is his brother's widow, who falls to yibam with him. Afil chamisha achen, or even if there were 5 brothers who made and one of them was in battle, kulan chosren, and one of them died in battle, all the brothers go back, because we're saying that since she could fall to yibam with one of them, they all go back in battle. It says in the Mishnah, it says in the Torah, V'lo. So the Mishnah says, the Bryce says, V'lo. Could have just said, V'lo. Why did it say in the Torah, he did not take her? Prata, Almano, Kohen Gadol, or Grusha, Chalutzla, Kohen Hedgel, Ramzeres, and Nisino, Israel. These are all prohibited marriages. The widow to the high priest, the divorcee to the regular Kohen, the mamzeres and Nesina to the regular Jew, or Bas Yisrael mamzer or Nasim. So all those cases, they don't go back because it's prohibited marriage. So the Gemara says, well, Lema, the local Rabbi Yossi Aglili, let's say that our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Yossi Aglili, because what does Rabbi Yossi Aglili say? The Rabbi Yossi Aglili, he taught, Amar, Ha-Yarei Varach Levav. When it says in the Torah that the one who is afraid should go back, Rabbi Yossi Aglili said, Zamis Yarei Me'avera Shabiyado. This is somebody who's afraid of his sin. So in this case, we say if the person is married to a Kohen married to a divorce, he doesn't go back. Well, he should go back anyway because he's a sinner. So it's clear our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Yossi Aglili, says the Gemara. Gemara says, no, I feel Taima Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Could even say it's like Rabbi Yossi Aglili, like Rava taught. Even those people, the Kohen to the Grusha, Kohen Gadol to the widow, and Mamzeres to the Yisrael, all those cases, even though the prohibited marriages are only in violation, they only get the lashes once they consummate the marriage. Being betrothed is not enough. Why? Matam, because lo yikach. What's the reason? Because it says he should not. Matam lo yikach. What's the reason he's not supposed to take her as a wife? Mishum lo yichal. Only because we don't want him to disqualify the Kohen from being his descendant. Mishum his descendant from being a Kohen. So we're going to say in these cases, he's not going to get lashes until he actually consummates. So therefore, since he hasn't consummated yet, he's not a sinner. So the only reason why he doesn't go back is because it's not a kosher marriage. Tan Rabbanan Asher Bana Asher Nata Asher Era. So it says, who's the one who has built a house, planted a vineyard, betrothed? So the Gemara says, Lim the Torah derech haretz. The Torah is teaching us the right way to live. First, you should build a house, then you plant your vineyard. And only then do you marry a woman. But also Shlomo Melech said, Shlomo Melech says, prepare outside your courtyard, and then do your work in the field, and afterwards you build your house. So what does this mean? So the Gemara explains, this refers to a bias. This refers to build your house. Prepare your fields, this refers to your vineyard. And afterwards you build your house. Zu Isha. First you build your house, then you plant your vineyard, and then you get married. First you learn Bible. And then you learn Mishnah. And then you do the Gemara. That refers to Mikra, that refers to the biblical verses. Mishnah, and also the Mishnah. That refers to Gemara. This refers to good deeds. That you do the good deeds, spend your life doing good deeds after you've learned Bible, Mishnah, and Gemara. First you accomplish all your education, and then you're able to put it into practice. What does our Gemara mean when it says, then you learn Gemara? Raj says, to put your logic and to understand the explanations of the Mishnah, and who does the halacha follow. Rabbi Eliezer ben Osher, Rabbi Yosef Omer, he says, that refers to Mikra. Umishna, Ugamar. That refers to first prepare your education. Mikra Mishnah Gemara. But the Dabas Lach, this refers to the Maisim Tovim, the good deeds. This means that you have to start teaching it to other people. That's the last stage. These are the ones who don't go back from battle, the ones who build, like the base showers, like the entrance house. So, Tanaim Hosef Bodimos Echad Choser. What's the amount that you have to add onto your house for it to be considered a new house? If you add on one row of bricks, then you go back from battle. Rabbi Lezer says, also, if you build a brick house in the Sharon, you don't go back. Tana, why? The reason is, we're going to the Brisa, because the houses of the Sharon, they had to rebuild twice every 7 years. And so they built it in a place that wasn't secure. Actually, when we were in Saudi Arabia, we went in Tabuk. They said, we were on the street there, and this woman says, you want to come into this home? We were showing you like a home. It was made out of mud. They just made a regular house out of mud with a straw roof. And you know how long that home was there for? 500 years. It very, very rarely rains there. And they built the house out of mud, and it lasted for over 500 years. An incredible thing. It's just an incredible thing. So somebody built
praise for the people of the Sharon.
Right. So on the Musaf of the prayer of the Kohen Gadol, he says on Musaf of Yom Kippur, before he leaves the temple, before he leaves the Holy of Holies, he says that he prays for the people of the Sharon that their homes not become their burial places. And what I'm saying is that to have to rework your house twice in 7 years is an incredible amount, considering that they would build mud homes that would last for hundreds and hundreds of years. And then they built it out of nothing material, mud. And these are the people who don't leave from their place. If he builds a new house and consecrates it, Tana Rabbanan, Isha Chadasha, or if he has a new wife, meaning to say those people don't even go out to the battlefront to begin with. They don't even go to the battle to be sent back. If you have a new wife, you fully married her in your first year, you don't leave. Tana Rabbanan, Isha Chadasha, a new wife, Isha Chadasha. Okay, I only know if she's like a virgin. Amano Grushaminai. And how do I know if she's a widow or divorcee? You don't even go to the battlefront to begin with, and you don't even help out on the home front. Tamalomar Isha, which means Mikomakum, any type of wife. Isha Chadasha. What does it mean when it says a new wife? Misha Chad Shalo. It means she's new for him. Yatza Machzer Kushasa, but if it will be his old wife, who he just remarried, She'en Chadashalo. He's not going to go back for her. She's not new for him. They don't go out to the army. I might think these people have a new wife. Okay, they have to provide. They don't go to the battle, but maybe they have to work on the home front. It says the verse, he doesn't go out for anything. I might think it also includes that in the category of people who don't go out to the home front. Also, those who build a house and have not consecrated it or planted a vineyard and not dedicated it or betrothed a woman and not fully married her, says the verse, Allah. No, only those people who fully married for a year, fully married within their first year, they don't go out. Says the verse, Allah, or you're actually in the year of the redemption. Upon him, he doesn't go out. Allah v'atamavir. He doesn't go out to the home front. Aval atamavir acherim, but others do go out. So if since it already says le'avor, why does it also say lo yetzi b'tzava? So the Gemara explains. Vorolav b'shnei lavim. Somebody forces him to go out, he's going to be in violation of two prohibitions. It says the mission of Yasua Shotrim Daber, and then the officers added on to speak to the people. What did they say? Rabbi Akiva Omer, and then they said that somebody who's Yarei and Rachleiva, somebody who's afraid goes back home. Kamashma, Rabbi Akiva says, like it literally says, they can't stand in the heat of the battle. They can't see a sword being, they can't see a sword drawn, and they get afraid. Rabbi Yossi Aglili says, what does it mean when it says Ayare v'arach levav? This is somebody who's afraid of sins in his hand. Therefore, the Torah says about all these sins, meaning to say the Torah, the whole reason why all these other categories are listed, the new house, the new vineyard, is so as not to embarrass the one who needs to go back because he's afraid of his sins. So the one who's afraid of his sins goes back, and therefore, since we don't want to just embarrass him, we put these other categories. Rabbi Yossi gives a different explanation. What does it mean? Amana l'kohen gadol, gusha v'chalutz l'kohen hedjum, mamzer s'mesino l'Yisrael, basa Yisrael, mamzer unasin, hareyu ayar v'rachavav. Who is the one who's afraid in his heart? This is the one who, a widow who marries a kohen gadol, a divorcee who marries a kohen. Those are mamzer who marries Yisrael. They committed a sin, so they go back. Gemara's going to ask, what's the difference between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yossi Aglili? But for now, it says, vayakach halos hashotrim v'daveru ha'am, when the officers finished speaking to the people, they put the officers at the heads of the people, and at the rear of the people, they put these tall people before them, and then other people behind them, and they had these iron sticks. If somebody tries to run away, wasn't in these categories, they smack his feet down. Shetchilas are on the top of 44b. I mean, who has to run away this way? You could have easily gotten permission. You just say I'm a sinner, and they let you go. So this guy, who are they hitting? They're hitting the one person who claims he's not a sinner, but he's running away, so he is a sinner. Shetchilas, we're on top of 44b. Shetchilas Nisan Nefila. The beginning of the of running away is falling down, as it says, Nas Yisrael Afnei Plishtim, Begam Magefa Gedola Haisabam, and there was a huge plague in the people. The children of Israel fled from the Philistines, and many of them died. When do we say all this? That these people who have these exemptions, the Mochamas Harashus, by a discretionary war, of a Mochamas Mitzvah, but if it's an obligatory war, then we're going to say it's an obligatory war, it's a mitzvah war, everybody goes out. Even a groom and a bride. We see from here, a bride would have to go to war, and a woman is not exempt from being a soldier. Amar Rabbi Yehuda b'medvar mamurim. Yehuda says, when do we say that these exemptions apply by Muhammad's mitzvah, by a mitzvah war? Or Muhammad's chova, by an obligatory war, I call yotzin. Everybody goes out. Even a chasan and a kawa. So even the bride and the groom. Ma'ika ben Rabbi Yossi or Rabbi Yossi. So Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yossi both say the one who's afraid means that they've committed a sin, afraid of their sins. So what's the difference between them? Ika benayu avera d'Rabbanan. So the difference between them is rabbinic sin. That's you've only committed a rabbinic sin. Rabbi Yossi Aguli still says you go back. Rabbi Yossi says no, it has to be a biblical sin. Like whom does it say that which we taught? Let's say you talk in between putting your tefillin on. That's an avera hibiyado. That's a sin. And you go back from battle while talking. While you in between putting on your tefillin shel yad and your tefillin shel rosh, that is not a biblical violation; it's a rabbinic violation. Yet you go back from battle, so that is like Rabbi Yossi Aguli. Mantana. Rabbanan, who is the one from whom it taught Shama Kol Koranos, Vertia Agafas Trisin, Vertia Tzechzoch Charevos, Umayim Shosasin, Loar Birkovchos. Who is the one who taught, the one who hears the sound of the trumpets and the sound of the shields banging and the swords glistening and he's urinating, he goes back. Come on, Leimak Rabbi Akiva. Maybe that's only like Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva says you go back in battle from just being afraid, and not Rabbi Yossi Agluli. So the Gemara says no, but Rabbi Yossi Agluli would also admit that if you're actually afraid, you go back. because then everybody else will get afraid. Means he also says if your fear is just that your fear of sin, that's when you go back. And then when the officers start to pine, so Mar explains, the Mishnah said that if you start to, that it says in the Mishnah, if you start to run away, they knock you down because the beginning of running away is falling. It should be the opposite. The beginning of falling is running away. So they don't let you run away. Something where it says, that's me, by the way, that it's where it says, no, you're right. Okay, change it. Say the beginning of falling is running away. So Tanakama says that there's two categories. There's a discretionary war and a mitzvah war. The exemptions apply only by discretionary war. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda says there are two categories: a mitzvah war and a chova war, and the descriptions only apply by exemptions only apply by a mitzvah war. So what's the difference between them? So Rabbi Yochanan, actually there's no difference. But just the Rabbanan with the rabbi, it's just nomenclature. The rabbis call discretionary zui mitzvah. That's also an obligatory war. The Rabbi Yehuda, a mitzvah the Rabbanan, and that which the rabbis call a mitzvah, zui chova the Rabbi Yehuda. That's the obligatory war of Rabbi Yehuda. They're basically just calling different names for it. Rabbah says actually no, there's a difference. Milchames Yoshua with Kvosh Divrei Kol Chova. Everybody says that the war of Joshua to conquer the 7 nations, everybody would call that obligatory. Milchames Beis David Vacha Divrei Kol Rishus. Everybody would say the war of David to expand his boundaries of Israel to go into Syria and conquer it. That David Aram Tzova, that is optional. Kipligi, where are they arguing? L'miyute of de kochavim. Those like a preemptive war. That's where they're arguing. The lo leisi alayu. They want the idolaters to not attack them. Marakari le mitzvah. So marakari rishus. The Tanakhama calls that discretionary, and Rabbi Yehuda calls that a mitzvah. And so that's where they say the exemptions don't apply. And nafkamino osik mitzvah shapater min mitzvah. The question is whether or not, if you're doing that, you're exempt from a different mitzvah. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you are. According to Tanakhama, you're not. And now we go on to the next chapter, which is called the chapter of Egla Rufa, that if there's a dead body that's found outskirts of a city and it's fallen on the ground, the elders of the town have to take a calf, and they go out from the court, they take a calf, they break the neck of the calf, and they say, our hands did not sprinkle this blood. Our hands did not spill this blood. So this is the story of the Egla Rufa. Egla Rufa, this passage is B'lashon HaKodesh. It needs to be said in Hebrew. And it says, Ki matzeh halal ba'adama. Well, the Gemara is going to have to say how that phrase means that it has to be said in Hebrew. And then your elders and your judges go out, which means 3 go out. 3 go out from the courts in Jerusalem. Rabbi Yehuda says chamisha, as it says 5, as it says zekenecha shnayim shavtecha shnayim. Your elders are 2. Your judges are 2. Ve'ein bezin shakol. You can't have an equal court. Mosif alein od echad. You add on 1 more judge. Nimtza tamun begal. Let's say you find them buried in the stones, otaloi, or a wave. You find them buried in a wave or pile of stones. So then, hold on 1 second. Let's say you find them in a pile of stones. Otaloi, but you are hanging from a tree, otzaf al pnei hamayim, or floating on the water. Lo are you orphan? Then you don't break to the ceremony. Shenemar badama lo badama. It says you find them in the ground. Lo tamam begal. You find them in the ground, which means not buried in the stones. No fell, he's fallen. Lo talabayun, not hanging from a tree. Besada in the field. Lo tzaf al pnei hamayim, not floating on the water. Nimta samach sapar. Let's say you find them close to the border. Oh, a year sharuba of the, or you find them close to a city it's filled with idolaters. Or a city without a court. No, are you open? Then they don't break his neck. They break the neck of the calf. A modin ella ear sheish babezin. You don't. You only do the measurements from a city that has a court. Naika Amar. What does it mean? Amar Rabbi Avo. Meaning to say, what's the source for this idea that Eglah Ruf is in Hebrew? It says ki matzah chalal ba'adamah. Well, that doesn't make sense. How do we understand that? So Amar Rabbi Avo. You have to amend the text. It states va'anu va'amru alan. It says by Mount Gerizim. And U'alanu Omer, V'anu Alavim. So by the Eglah Rufa, it says, V'anu V'amru, our hands are not scalded bottom. By the Har Gerizim, it says, V'anu V'amru. V'anu Alavim V'amru. Ma ani amur al'alam b'lashon HaKodesh. Just like by Mount Gerizim, the Levites say it in Hebrew. Havkam b'lashon HaKodesh. Also here in Hebrew. V'seder Eglah Rufa Kitzad. How does you do the Eglah Rufa? And this is what the Mishnah is saying, that when you find the dead body in the ground, that 3 people from the court in Jerusalem would go out. Rabbi Yehuda says 5. How do we get that? Each one is 2. That's 5. Rabbi Shimon says Main bezin shakol is mosifin away an od echad, and then you get to 3. Harei kan shalosh. Rabbi Shimon nami oksif shovtecha. What does Rabbi Shimon do with shovtecha? Humi bayolei miyuchadin shovtecha. He says you need special judges from the Sanhedrin. Rabbi Yehuda means zignei zekeinecha nafka. Why didn't Rabbi Yehuda learn that out? It could have said zignei. It says zekeinecha. Rabbi Shimon he calls the Rahman zignei. Abi amina afilu zignei ashok. I might have thought even just any elders from the court if it said Ziknei. So therefore, because of Rahman Zikinecha. Because of Rahman Zikinecha, Amina Afilu Sanhedre Kitana. I might have thought even not from the major court, or from a smaller court, because of Rahman Vishavtecha. And what about Rabbi Yehuda? Gamar Ziknei, Miziknei Aeda. By the law of the parallel Davar Shal Tzibur. Just like there needs to be special judges. Also here special judges. So then the Gemara says, Igamar, if he's going to learn a Gzeir Shava from parallel Davar to Agarufa, why does he need to connect with Shavtecha at all? Ella vishavtecha minyana. When it says the extra vav, that's to teach us you need 2 additional judges. For Rabbi Shimon, why doesn't he learn that from the actual extra vav? Vav lo mashmali. He doesn't learn it out. He doesn't darshan that extra vav. We'll stop here. The recording. If anybody has any questions, happy to address.